Hi everybody, it's Dr. Chabot, and in this video we're going to revisit the relationship between electric field vector and the scalar electric potential. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is that we're going to learn how to get the potential from the electric field. So let's say you're given the electric field. How could we get the potential? So we want to recall how we started out doing some of our derivations. We talked about the idea of work done, and then work done by the field specifically was equal to the negative change in the potential energy. And then that was equal to the integral of the electric force dotted into some path length, right? That's our definition of work done. That was our negative change in the potential energy. And so then now we just want to remember that delta U, so this side here is negative Q, some test charge, times delta V. So we could write that as in terms of our Q delta V equation. And then this side can be written as QE, forces QE, that same test charge, dot ds, because the potential, electric potential, remember, was electric potential energy per charge. And the field was the electric force per charge. So in both cases, we have that Q that could show up. And so if we cancel out that Q, then we end up with this relationship between the potential and the electric field. So we end up with that delta V, the change in potential, can be found from the negative, moving this negative sign over, the integral of E dot ds. So just taking out the dependence on those test charges, talking about the space, and we get this, this integral here, where again, ds is a tiny path length along your path at some given point, and the dot product takes your parallel components, right? So that you really only have work done and energy transfer when your field is parallel to your direction of motion. So let's go ahead and do an example using this one, and let's actually just go to something familiar, which is a point charge. So we know the electric field from a point charge is kq over r squared, r hat. And the r hat is necessary here for when I talk about ds. So if I say here r hat dotted to ds, we can simply again ignore our angular dependence and we just end up with dr in that case. So our delta V will be equal to negative integral kq over r squared, and then dr. No more vectors, because once I execute that dot product, then I have gotten rid of my vectors and I just have a dr. So let's go ahead and still take the case where we say that the potential is going to be the convention goes to zero as r goes to zero. So that's our ground floor. That's our convention that we're going to take, just so that we can match this up to our other values. And then let's go ahead, as r goes to infinity here. So that last one, as r goes to infinity, our potential goes to zero. That's where we're taking the ground. And so we want to find the change in potential as something moves from some r initial to infinity, infinitely far away. So essentially finding that initial potential. And so this delta V is going to be our V final minus V initial, which is going to be our V at infinity, which is 0 minus V initial. And so that's going to be why we make that convention, so that we can make that step of plugging in 0 for V final. And so what we end up with here then for this is on the left-hand side, 0 minus V initial. On the right-hand side, we have negative times, and then we have kq over r squared. So that's just going to be kq, and then r squared goes to negative 1 over r. So a lot of negatives to keep track of here, from r initial to infinity. And so if we follow through all of these negative signs, on the left-hand side, I have negative v initial equals negative kq, and then times negative 1 over infinity minus negative 1 over r initial. And so that becomes negative kq. And then this is 0, so this is going to be over here. Negative 1 over infinity is just 0, plus 1 over r initial. And so that then gives us that negative v initial equals negative kq over r initial. And so we can get rid of our negative signs, and that v initial is kq over r initial, as expected. So we get the same result that we get when we had derived it previously, directly by looking at the energy of a pair and then dividing out by the test charge. So this is the example of a point charge using this equation for relating the potential from the electric field. So if you can calculate the electric field, say via Gauss's law, inside some conducting sphere, you could actually get the potential at that point. One thing I'm going to say here as a note is note that if E equals 0, that doesn't mean that V equals 0. It does not mean V equals 0. Instead, what it means is that the change in V equals 0, so that V is equal to a constant. That'd be like, for our analogy for height, that'd be like a flat floor with no slope, right? Remember, the electric field is like the slope of the floor. So if you're just really high up on like a skyscraper, you might have a potential, you have a height, but you don't have a slope, so you don't have a field. All right, so let's move on to the next portion of this, which is to relate the electric field to the electric potential. But now let's say that we want to find the electric field if we know the potential. So kind of switching up what we had just done, which was the reverse. So we want to find the electric field if we're given a potential. So here what I want us to do is recall that the electric field points downhill. So think of a 3D contour map. So a 3D contour map. And you can imagine at any point, right, the potential is the negative of the slope at some given point. So if you just imagine, right, a really complicated contour map that is in 3D, and then you take a point on that map and you're like, which way would a ball go? And it's going to go, downward, that's the negative, and then the slope. And the slope might be 3D. There might be an X component to the slope, kind of like a horizontal shift. There might be a Y component, another horizontal shift, and then there might be a Z component. So we can have that. So the equation then that we use for this involves the gradient vector. So we write this here. I'll write it out first just as the slope. The electric field is going to be equal to negative times, and the slope, instead of just, because there's 3 dimensions now, we're actually going to be using what's called what's called a gradient, and these partial derivatives. So I'll walk us through some of those examples, but I have this kind of curvy D, which means a partial derivative of V with respect to X. So I would read that as partial V, partial X. And then because I need to end up with a vector, by taking the slope, this is my slope along the x direction, that's going to give me the x component of my field. And then plus the slope along the y direction, and that's going to give me the y component of my field, plus the slope along the z direction, and that's going to give me the z direction of my field. So the slope along x, that's going to be the slope along y. And then, of course, this one is the slope along z. So the negative is the downhill part of this, right? That we've made it so electric field lines by our convention point downhill towards decreasing. So E points from, I'll recap this as E points, towards decreasing potential. So it points towards lower potential. So that's what that negative sign is. And then all of these are just the slopes at some given point. This can be a little messy to look at. So a simpler way of writing this is sometimes as follows, where the electric field is going to be, I don't know why it's doing that, I'm sorry, the electric field is equal to negative times this del operator, V. So when it's written like this without a dot product, this is going to be what we call the gradient, which is essentially a 3D slope, where the del operator, that's this guy, often shows up in a lot of things in math and in its applications to physics. It shows up in the curl, the divergence, and the gradient. Those aren't things that are prerequisites for this class, but it is nice to kind of give you some idea of some of the, more common ways that you might see some of these things written. And so this del operator is really just taking the partial x in one direction of some, it's an operator because you can apply it to anything. You take the partial derivative with respect to x times the I hat, partial derivative with respect to y times j hat, plus partial derivative with respect to z times k hat. So that's the del operator. When it's multiplied by a potential, that gives us the slope of the potential, and then that allows us to end up with a vector that is from a scalar. So we're taking our scalar energies or heights and we're visualizing our downward fields from that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an example where we have to understand how to use this partial derivative. Even if you haven't seen partial derivatives, I think you'll find that it's really not that bad. The trick here is that the derivative is taken as if everything else is constant. So if we have here a potential that varies with x, y, and z, so we have three variables, let's give that as something like x plus 2, say x squared y cubed plus z squared. Then we want to just take each term. So we can then say my electric field is going to be equal to the negative, and then I'm going to say partial v, partial x. So partial v, partial x, I'm going to treat everything else as constant. So partial x means treat y and z as constants. And so if I look at this, x, the derivative of x is just 1. The derivative of 2x squared y cubed, and now y cubed is a constant, just becomes over here, I would have that 2y, I would have 4x y cubed. So I just took the derivative of x squared to 2x, and then the derivative of z squared, which is just a constant, is 0. So that's going to be my first term. This here was my partial v partial x, and that's in the I hat direction. Let me give myself a little bit more space. I'll move this over here. And now I'm going to just write down the other terms. So I can then say plus, because I have my minus out front, and then partial v, partial y. So the first term, x is a constant now, so partial v, partial y, x is a constant, plus now I just have this y cubed, so I'm going to end up with 6x squared, treating x as a constant, y squared, and then z is a constant when I'm doing my partial y, so I just end up with j hat with 0 and then j hat here. And then this was partial v, partial y, and that was when x and z were constants. And so now we can go ahead and add in our last term, which is going to be the partial v, partial z. So that's going to give me 0 plus, and then that one also has no z dependence, and then plus 2z. And so that partial z was as if x and y were constants. So hopefully you see it's just basically like a normal derivative, but we're just isolating that one variable we care about. And so we can then write this as the electric field is negative 1 plus 4xy cubed I hat, and then plus, and I guess I'll put the minus, I'm going to take it out to just have each term, move that minus through, so 6x squared y squared j hat, and then minus 2z k hat. And that would give me my electric field, the slope, the downhill slope of my potential in that space. So kind of looking at that contour map. So as one last note, let's say what if E is uniform? So what if the electric field is uniform? So it's like a constant slope, right? To our potential. Then what we have is a much simpler result, and we can just write this as the magnitude of E is going to be equal to the slope, which instead of having these partial derivatives, I can just say is delta V over, let's just call it delta R, which is going to just be in whatever direction, the downhill is pointing. So that can give us here units of this, which would be delta V, and that's again capital V for our potential, which would be volts per meter. So that's a useful idea for a unit. And it turns out that 1 volt per meter, and you can show this, is equal to 1 Newton per Coulomb, which was our previous units of electric field. So both of those could be used for electric field. If you're thinking about forces, then the Newton per Coulomb is a useful definition. If you're thinking about volts per meter and the spatial nature of this potential in electric field, then volts per meter is useful. And so you can actually get the potential, and what we'll see is if I have, say, a potential line here and I have another one there, let's say that this one is at 5 volts and this one is at 7 volts, and let's say that there's some distance, if I measure the perpendicular distance away as d, then I can say here that I can approximate the electric field, the magnitude of the electric field from this as being 7 minus 5 all over d, whatever that spacing is. And then that would give me my volts per meter. And we'll actually do this where we can measure voltage. We can actually measure voltage really easily, and we can measure distances really easily. So we can actually get the electric field from this measurement of voltages through space. So you can estimate the slope at each point. Now, of course, the direction, the electric field would point downhill here, so the electric field would point from high potential to low potential. But the difference in voltage divided by the spacing will give us our magnitude of the electric field.